Welcome, welcome. Come on in, get comfortable. We have an awesome program for you. Welcome to the College Admissions Collaborative, highlighting engineering and technology virtual college fair. I have a couple of housekeeping items before I turn it over to our presenters this evening. First, this is a webinar, so your camera and your microphone are off. Our panelists cannot see or hear you this evening. Secondly, this is being recorded, and all the programs tonight will be have been recorded and will be available within 1 week at strivescan.com/CACHET. And finally, we know that you're going to have some questions, and so feel free to put those questions in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen at any time. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our panelists. I have the distinct pleasure to introduce you to Bucknell University.
Hi, good evening. My name is Ben Cavanaugh. I'm an associate director. I've been at Bucknell for 15 years. I don't always look like John Cougar Mellencamp, but hey, the pandemic's gotten to us all. I'm joined tonight by one of my colleagues, Jenny Kim, who will introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Jenny Kim, and I'm the Regional Associate Director based in San Diego, California. So I am primarily recruiting out in the West Coast. Thanks for joining us, and I will be answering questions in the chat, in the Q&A, and if there are any hyperlinks that I would like to include, I will include that in the chat room as well. So there's a hyperlink there. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, outstanding. Hopefully there'll be plenty of questions. Let me share my screen here and do a little information session action. So Bucknell University, who are we, where are we? Those are all great questions, and I'm glad you're telepathing those to me. We are located in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, which is right in the central part of our state. If you know anything about Pennsylvania, we're about 90 minutes north of Harrisburg, which is our state capital. Philadelphia is about 2.5 hours to the east. Sort of southeast from here. Pittsburgh's 3.5 hours to the southwest. New York City is 3 hours almost due east. If you took I-80 and just drove it, you would run into New York City or get pretty darn close. Washington, D.C., Baltimore also within 3 hours. So we're in a town of about 10,000 people. The campus is actually located in town. So it's a lovely small town experience. Market Street's the heart and soul of Lewisburg. Although if you're looking for your Dunkies, your Chipotle, your Panera, we've got those as well. So we're here tonight to talk to you obviously about the awesomeness that is Bucknell. We're going to talk about academics, talk a little bit about life after Bucknell. Obviously, we're going to focus a bit more on STEM than we typically would, given the audience. We'll also talk about life after college, which seems surreal because it's like I haven't even finished high school and already talking about what's next. I'll also talk about the application process, which I've read engineering applications for many years. I'm the what we call vertical manager for the College of Engineering, so I make a lot of the decisions as well. So I try to give you some insight in terms of what I'm thinking when I approach an application, things I'm looking for. I try to give you as many tips as possible. And I'll also talk about, a little bit about how to pay for it, because that's also a very important aspect of all this. The thing about Bucknell is, what's unusual about us compared to a lot of our peers in this group is, we're a liberal arts college. So we really focus on undergraduate education, almost the exclusion of everything else. So those, 3,600 students we have, only about 75 are graduate students. So our focus is on how do we give our students the resources they need to be successful? So at Bucknell, again, kind of what's unusual about us compared to a lot of our peers, even among liberal arts colleges, is that we're not one college, we're actually three. So 60% of our students are in the College of Arts and Sciences, 20% are in the College of Management, and 20% are in the College of Engineering. Now, the numbers for the College of Engineering and the College of Management are intentionally low. We actually cap both of those programs. They're actually at capacity in terms of how many students we're able to work with. And that's intentional. We want to make sure that students have, especially the human resources necessary in order to be successful. These are three statistics we always like to throw out there. We think they're important. And again, 3,600, that speaks to our size. I think we're large enough that we have over 60 majors, over 70 minors. We teach over 700 classes a year. But, you get that personal attention, because the student-teacher ratio is 9-1. Every professor here teaches classes. The professors teach 5 classes a year on average. So they really enjoy the interaction that comes with the classroom. They enjoy getting to know students. They enjoy being mentors. They're going to invest a lot of themselves into you because they want to see you be successful. But at the same time, I think that's part of what makes Bucknell challenging, not just in STEM fields, but I think across the board, is because the professors teach classes. They have high expectations. They're not just giving you grades. They want to see you do well, right? So they're going to push you. They're going to figure out what makes you tick, and they're going to try to help you reach the place you want to get to. 0 is also another important number. I get asked a lot, how many classes are taught by grad students, right? How many classes are taught by TAs? None. Like I said, every class taught by a professor. That makes a big difference when you have people that aren't just passionate about their work, passionate about their field, but they also teach. They also want to, sort of talk to their students about the work that they're doing. It's amazing kind of some of the spaces that the professors have created in order to do that. Something else we always like to talk about, hands-on from day one. So you can actually, we often get asked, well, when can I start doing research? Well, I mean, obviously you have to unpack, you got to move in, you got to do orientation. But if you're chosen as a presidential fellow, which actually Jenny is an expert on, the presidential fellow is one of our most prestigious merit scholarship, and a big portion of the presidential fellow program is a research component. So you actually get matched up. If you're a pres fellow, you actually get matched up with the professor, so you can actually start doing research right away. Other students who are not part of Press Fellows, I mean, it's really easy to get involved. Because professors teach the classes, they make it really easy to get to know them. They make it easy to get involved in their projects. We've seen professors just shoot emails to departments. I mean, the culture of Bucknell is if someone wants to do something, we'll sit down with them and figure out a way to do that. But, every student, worst case scenario, every student will have an opportunity to do, if they choose, a senior research thesis. And that's regardless of majors. That's a one-on-one research project that you do with the supervisor. And in the end, you produce a thesis. And again, those are quite powerful research documents. In terms of where Bucknell can take you, I mean, I think when you're looking at life after college, you should think a lot about what is college for. A lot of what college is for is not just, memorizing facts and figures and formulas. It's also about trying to figure out the existential stuff. Like, what do I stand for? What's important to me? What moves me? What is meaningful to me? What kind of work is important? Something we often say here, at least I say it a lot, is your major is not your career, right? So I think, you look at the patterns of what our students do versus what their majors are. They're not just focused on one specific program, which is to say you don't just see history majors becoming historians or economics majors becoming economists or even engineering majors simply becoming engineers. They have a wide range of opportunities and possibilities available. And that's a good thing because it means the employers out there and graduate programs in the region and across and around the country recognize the value of the Bucknell experience. We actually start sophomore year with externships. So every sophomore will do an externship, it's kind of a job shadow. But you prepare a resume, you do a little interview. You start for us at that point to think about how do I translate the experience I'm having here and all its facets to life after college. Sometimes an externship will give you a sense of, well, I don't want to do that field. I see what they do for a couple of days. It's the last thing I want to do. Other times students do an externship. It can be a foot in the door, it can lead to an internship, it can lead to other things. But we have an Office of Career Services, which, they'll help out with internships. They help out with externships. They do job fairs. They do grad school fairs. We have over 50,000 living alums. So you have access to the alumni database from day one. Our placement rate within 9 months of graduation is over 95%. And that's an impressive statistic, and I'm sure you'll hear other places quote similar numbers. There's also two other things you need to pay attention to. You also need to look at retention. Do the students who start there, do they stay, right? And our retention rate is over 90%, which is among the highest in the country, right? You also have to look at completion. Do the students who stay graduate in a timely manner? We graduate over 85% of our students in 4 years. Even among the College of Engineering, 80% of our students graduate in 4 years. So to me, that makes the placement rate look even that much more impressive, is that the overwhelming percentage of students who persevere and graduate on time are able to be placed. And I think that's what it's about. That's what it's about. These are some faces of some of our wonderful alums. I'm a big soccer guy. I always like to point out Sunil Gulati, good old Sonny G. He was a longtime president of the U.S. Soccer Federation. He was president for over a decade. He's one of the big movers and shakers of soccer in America. It's one of the reasons why there's so much more funding and so much more visibility for the sport. And again, he majored in economics, not the most obvious path there. So again, that's something we like to talk about. It's like your major is not necessarily your career, and that's a good thing. That's something to embrace. We're also, also to remember, this is a residential community. Over 90% of our students, 90, live on campus. We do guarantee housing for all 4 years. I think one of the things that attracts people to Bucknell is the fact that, they get to live with a group of people that are very supportive of them, that want to see them do well. Our students are coming here looking to make friends. They're not looking to compete in a cutthroat manner against folks. They want to be part of something bigger than themselves. And we pride ourselves on that. We pride ourselves on our sense of community. Like I said, every classroom is taught by a professor. I love this photo because I think it's pretty typical of what what many of our Bucknell classroom spaces look like. They're not these massive auditoriums that you see in Hollywood films. You don't have some professor pontificating to hundreds of people. It's a humane process. It's people talking to one another, right? It's a very personal interaction. And I think, that's one of the things our students are looking for, is they wanted that personal interaction. They didn't want to be a number on a ledger. They didn't want to be someone who could just hide out in the back of the auditorium room and sleep through classes. And they wanted to be challenged. They wanted to be in a supportive environment. And again, I think that's something that by having professors teach classes, by having people that are here because they want to teach classes, I think that makes a big difference. All right, we have 3 colleges. The largest and oldest is the College of Arts and Sciences. About 60% of our students there. Probably the majority of our double majors are in the College of Arts and Sciences. So about 25% of our students have more than one major. So College of Arts and Sciences is great for the student who not quite sure what they want to do, or they're like, I like physics and I like history. Can I do both? You can. Many of our Bachelor of Science programs have a BA component that's really designed for students who want to double major. We get the question, I want to major in chemistry, but I want to do theater. Do I have to be a theater major to do that? Not at all. Any of our performing arts, you don't have to be a major to participate in. So again, there's arts and sciences. These are for students, kind of like I want to try things out. I want to explore. I want to dip a toe in this river. I want to dip a toe in that river. I want to dip a toe in that river. So in arts and sciences, you actually don't have to declare a major until the end of the sophomore year. So there's a lot of choice there. College of Engineering. We've been doing engineering since the 1890s. It actually grew out of our math department. Our first engineering major was civil engineering. We offer 8 engineering majors. You can also apply undecided in the College of Engineering. I think, if our professors were here, what they would always emphasize is the personal touch. Even in engineering, every class is taught by a professor, smaller class sizes. Every engineering student your first semester will take a class called Engineering 100, which to me is one of the things that sets our engineering college apart from a lot of other places. Is Engineering 100 is not just this opportunity to do hands-on engineering your first semester, right? It's not just this chance to get exposed to all 8 of our engineering majors and to do project work in 3 of them. It also builds a sense of collaboration. It builds a sense of community, a sense of togetherness, because every member of the engineering class is in Engineering 100. And we split that class into much smaller groups to work together as teams. So you learn right away, you know, regardless of the project, what makes it engineering? Well, there's a problem you have to solve, right? You never have a big enough budget. You never have all the time you want to do it. So you have to figure out what's the problem we're trying to solve, who's got the best ideas, work together collaboratively to do that. So I think it's very creative work. And, you know, yeah, it's like if you don't like engineering 100, you're not going to like the next 7 semesters. It's like if you take that class and go, well, that's not for me. Well, that's good because it means you've got time to figure it out. But that's not the intent's not to weed people out. You know, we're not trying to kick people out. I mean, the goal every year for the College of Engineering is to enroll 200 engineering students and have them all graduate as engineers 4 years from when they started, right? So what the class is really designed to do is to be a retention tool. It's for students to understand it doesn't matter where you place 1 to 200, as long as you enjoy the work, as long as you're making progress towards your degree, as long as you're you're impactful in the groups, who cares what the rankings are, right? But that engineering is not ultimately Tony Stark in the basement building a new Iron Man suit. Obviously, no one's got MCU money, so I mean, must be nice. So again, it's trying to figure out, all right, how do we solve the problem based on the resources we have available? But if you ask many of our engineering students, they would say that class was the one that really convinced them and really showed them, hey, I can do engineering. This is great. I'm enjoying this work, even though I'm spending hour after hour after hour in a lab trying to pursue a solution. You know, this is work they find rewarding and they find meaningful, and it sort of leads them on to the next path. And of course, the bookend that, you know, engineers all have a senior design project. So we actually have full-time staff members who network with industry. Corning Glass is an example, Merck is an example. We've done a lot of work with Dr. Pepper Keurig. So we network with industry, and they actually give us real world problems that those companies are trying to solve. And they let our students take a crack at it. And sometimes the students come up with solutions that the companies, in fact, use. So the work you're doing every step of the way is stuff that's real world applicable. It's not sort of theoretical engineering, it's hands-on real world stuff. Our third college is the College of Management. Again, we've been teaching business classes here for over a century. We use the word management intentionally because we really want to emphasize the human element. It's not just a profit loss. You know, we do have students go, can I do engineering and management? You can. It's actually a 5-year double degree program. You can also do a 5-year double degree program with Bachelor of Engineering, also Bachelor of Arts. So those double degree programs are possible. Now, management is actually at least the last 2 years, it's actually been our most competitive college. So if students are all interested in majoring in any of our management majors, it's important that you apply as a first-time freshman because there's no internal transfers. And the same could be said of engineering. Engineering is extremely popular. So we always recommend to students, if you're all interested in engineering, you should definitely apply directly to it. Otherwise, it's a space availability issue. I think one of the things we think a lot about is, we try to create an environment where students can be successful. We try to create an environment where students can work on themselves, can become the best versions of themselves, as our president, John Brodman, is very, very fond of saying. But, at a certain point, you try to puncture that bubble, right? Because, we all know about the benefits of bubbles, right? Everyone has lived in a bubble, it seems like, the last year. But, we don't want students to think that this campus is the whole world, because it's not. The point of a place like Bucknell is to prepare you for the world. So we do a couple of things to do little punctures in the bubble to prepare you for life outside of campus. One of those things, service. We're very big on service. We have a Office of Civic Engagement, which helps our students find lots and lots of service opportunities. We partner with dozens of local and regional service agencies. Students donate tens of thousands of hours of time every year. So that's a great opportunity to give back, to fuel, again, another connection with community. We're very big on study abroad as well. So hopefully when the world everyone's vaccinated and everyone is, the masks are off, the air is clean, we're all past COVID, we'll be able to travel freely again. So usually about 45% of our students do study abroad, and that's every major. We have every major, even STEM fields, you have students doing study abroad. And it's something we encourage. we've done about a dozen programs through Bucknell over the years. We have about 450 to 500 approved programs through other colleges as well. So again, any major can do it. It's typically junior year. That's something we encourage people to look at. If you ask students, like, what was my most transformational experience? They will often say, study abroad. To be able to live in another country, experience a different culture, study, grow. It's a wonderful opportunity. It's very difficult to do it, let's say, when you're my age. I'd like to go to India and hang out and watch the IPL for the next 2 months. But I mean, besides the fact they're not allowing fans in, but I can't because I have to work in admissions. So, like I said, we're a residential campus. We do guarantee housing all 4 years. As a first year student, you'll typically have a roommate. It's a room designed to have 2 people. We're not trying to fit 2 people in the closet. For us, one of the fundamental kind of experiences of college is living with someone you're not related to, and not killing them, which is, you should never kill your roommate, but certainly not your freshman year roommate. Many students will reflect and say, that was one of my closest friends, was my first year roommates. We try to place you based on compatibility. So, you get people with similar living styles. Now, after your first year, then there's a housing lottery, and there's various options on campus. If you want to live in a single, cool. If you want to continue to room with your roommate, that's awesome as well. If you want to room with someone else, you can do that. All the way up to senior year, where seniors have actually first dibs on housing through the housing lottery. So they have the run of Bucknell. Our campus is on a hill, so often people will pick housing based on how close it is to their majority of their classes. Some students don't mind climbing that hill several times a day. Other students want to avoid it at all costs. So that can sort of go into that as well. Something else that's also important, like I said, as a residential campus, there's a lot to do. We have over 200 clubs and organizations, and especially with STEM majors, there's no aspect of campus that STEM majors aren't heavily involved in. Even in our 27 Division I varsity sports, we're members of the Patriot League, which was modeled on the Ivy League. So we're definitely a place where people go pro in something other than the sport they play in. Like I said, we want students to come here, get involved in campus life. It'd be very unusual for someone not to do that. I think someone who's a good fit for us, it's like, they not only want a great academic experience, they also want to get involved in campus life. They want to meet people. They want to develop themselves, and we want them to do that. We find that students, the more sort of contacts they make, the things they get involved in, the more their friend group builds, the more their acquaintance group builds, the more they feel connected, the more they feel part of the institution. And you often hear places where, there's this engineering silo where, there's like one side of campus and then, where engineers are, and then the other side where everyone else is, and never the twain shall meet. And we don't think that way. We're always trying to blend people together into one campus. So, you definitely get a chance to meet people from a variety of backgrounds and a variety of majors just based on the campus environment that exists here. Like I said, we're in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, so a lovely little town. Quick advertisement: if you were here, we'd actually give you a coupon at our bookstore, which is downtown. We restored an old building. It's a beautiful place. We push a few. This second floor is all merged, so we always try to push a few sweatshirts if we can, especially the one with the split beat. Those are warmest in the winter. The campus theater is my personal favorite. It's across the street from the bookstore. It's been around since 1942. We actually own it. So if you're taking, we actually offer film classes. So if you take a film class, you can actually take it. They screen the films for those film classes at the campus theater. I remember a couple of years ago, one of the professors did a class on the history of horror film. So you have people in a classroom studying that were getting to watch things like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Suspiria, Cat People. I couldn't imagine the conversations that you would have in class based on Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But again, that's the nature, I think, of education, is you study all kinds of things from all kinds of different angles. And I think those are also fun conversations as well. All right, so what are we looking for in an applicant? Let me tell you the question I hate the most. My least favorite question is, what's the one thing I can do on an application to help me stand out? And unless you're able to put, recipient, best supporting actor, Academy Award, 3 top 10 singles on the Billboard Pop chart, then that's not really going to move the needle, right? We're going to look at everything. And it's important because I think for someone to be successful here, obviously they need to be smart, they need to be clever, they need to be passionate about things. They need to have a sense of exploration, but also, you know, they're more than just academicians. They're more than just intellects, right? They want to develop the whole part. So we look at every aspect of what Bucknell is in our application process. So, you know, when I'm looking at application, I always ask 3 questions about an applicant. You know, the first question is, you know, can the student do the work, right? So we look at things like, I just pointed out grades. Grades are huge. Grades are the #1 thing, the best predictor of success in college are good grades. But we also look at grade trends, right? We actually don't recalculate GPA unless you enroll. So, you know, for us, as the courses become more challenging, how have your grades fared is a more interesting question than asking what's their GPA, right? Because you could have a 3.5 GPA, right? You could have a student who starts off with a 4.0, but as the courses become more challenging, the grades kind of plummet because they then make adjustments and, you know, they're not studying and they're not taking things seriously. Or you have another student who, you know, maybe they were slow starter, maybe they weren't applying themselves, but then they learned to study, they learned what works best for them. And you know, the grades went up even as the classes became more challenging. Or you may have someone who just kind of a steady, an A here, a B here, an A here, a B here, just a sub. Those are 3 different students, right? Those are 3 different trajectories. So grade trends, I think, are very important. Strength of schedule is also important, you know, because especially when I'm looking at an engineer, the question I'm asking myself is, can this person walk into Calc 1 and our physics from day 1, be able to keep their head above water and still have time to do other things on campus? Or are they going to have to spend all their energy keeping up with the academics, keeping up with the lab work, and not being able to participate in campus life? So strength of schedule is important in terms of answering those questions. Now, we require sort of the bare minimum would be 3 years of math with at least a pre-calculus. That's the bare minimum. 3 years of lab science. One of those should be either physics or chemistry. Those are the minimums. Now, most students who apply to us have 20 solids. Solids are, you were talking English, math, science, social studies, foreign language, academic classes. And most students have 20 solid classes at least. I don't know if you need to do that many more, but you know, you have to, you want to see rigor. You want to see strength of schedule. You love it to see AP and honors and IB classes on the transcript, but you're also looking at what's available at the school. You know, we want to see students, if they have opportunities to challenge themselves, we want to see them challenge themselves. I think you'll find, especially in a field like engineering, you know, the more math and science preparation you have, the better prepared you're going to be when you get here. That's not to say we ignore the other classes, because we don't. So I think someone who to be successful here, you know, writing is important. So we're paying attention to those English grades. Obviously, you know, it's nice to take classes like government and econ, because at some point you're going to vote. So you should understand how the government works, and you should understand how the economy works. Those are just basic things of being a citizen. So we're looking at everything. We're not just sort of looking at 2 things and ignoring everything else. So we're looking for strength of schedule. But again, it's based on what's available at your school. We want to see students who've challenged themselves. Now, I think what's tough about the messaging is, on the flip side of that, I'm not saying take every AP class. I'm not saying that at all. You know, you have to have time to do things like sleep and eat and occasionally bathe. So I'm not saying take every AP class. So the goal is to take as strong a schedule as you can take, as challenging a schedule as you can take, and still have a life. That's the challenging part. Still have time to do other things, because again, the student who's successful here, you know, they're balancing both of the academics and the extracurriculars. We're also looking at the technical aspects of your essay when we talk about academics. So when I'm reading your essay, I'm going, okay, does this student need remediation in English? Do they know how to complete sentences? All right, does the essay flow? Can I follow the narrative structure? Do I have a sense where it's going? What I didn't mention, test scores. This is actually our 2nd year of being test optional. So we were test optional even before the pandemic. Our philosophy on testing, well, at least my philosophy, my advice, if you think the test score will help you, send it. If you don't think it will help you, don't send it. I'm not, I never know what to expect. This year, over 50% of our applicants did not submit testing. So I'm not expecting it to be there. People have reasons to send it or not to send it. Often students will look at our middle 50% and sort of compare their score versus our middle 50%. But we also say it's important to look at the 50% of the school that you attend, because your test score may be in our 25th percentile based on our applicant pool, but based on where you go to high school, your test score may be in the 80th percentile. And that's also an interesting piece of information. So again, we always try in this process to be nuanced. We're not just sort of plugging numbers into an algorithm and having it spit out a decision. So we try to add that human element. You know, you're always having a person, or actually each application gets read by multiple people. We actually have the first read, we have two people reading at the same time. So, you know, it's not just one person unilaterally making a decision. So that's an important thing to note, that, you know, it is a human process. We look for the nuance, we look for the subtlety. But, you know, I think I would say the majority of our applicant pool is academically prepared to some degree.
And can I interrupt you really quick?
Hit me, yeah.
There's a really good question that came up when you were talking about AP classes, and I thought this would be great for the general group to kind of hear. The question that came in was, how important are AP classes to your application, and can they count towards college credits?
Yeah, typically the rule of thumb with AP classes, if you have at least a 4 on the test, you'll get credit of some sort. So you can get up to 8 courses of credit, which is equivalent of 1 academic year. I think it's important when you take an AP class to take the test, because the test is being evaluated by someone outside of your school. I think the test is the only way to really know, you know, how well you actually did in preparation for the class. But again, yeah, you like to see AP classes on there, even if you don't get credit for the test. You like to see those kinds of classes on there, because those classes, AP classes, the curriculum replicates to some degree, in some cases to a large degree, it replicates the kind of coursework and the kind of pace that you have to go at in order to learn the material that you would get in college. So to me, taking AP classes is good preparation, you know, because a lot of it, I mean, often the information between an AP and an honors isn't that great. It's just the pace that it's taught is a little bit faster, because that's the nature of college. Because when you're in college, you're not going every day, you know, you're going 2-3 times a week. So, you know, you have to be able to move at a sort of faster pace, because that's just the nature of class settings. So you always think it's a good idea to take IB. IB is we're a big fan of as well. We do offer credits if students are IB diploma students. I love the sort of cohesion of the IB curriculum. And there's also very writing intensive. I think students who do IB diploma programs, you know, they come to college and they're not fazed by, you know, the writing requirements. So I think that's great preparation as well. But like I said, you know, I asked 2 other questions. And the second question I ask is, you know, will the student thrive on campus? So we look at things like depth of extracurricular activities. What are you spending most of your time on? You'll have some students that, you know, they're passionate about, maybe they play, maybe they run, right? They do that year round. They spend 15 to 20 hours a week on running. They have other students that, like, maybe they play a sport, maybe they have a part-time job, maybe they're in a club or 2. I think there's room at Bucknell for both. I don't think we favor one over the other. So when we're looking at extracurricular activities, we're looking at, sure, clubs connected to the school, things like internships can count, things like jobs. I'm a big fan of part-time jobs. I think it builds character and definitely teaches you professional skills. You know, club intramural sports, religious life, volunteering, family responsibilities. You know, maybe you have a lot of younger siblings that you have to help take care of. Now, when I say that, I'm not saying you have to have every box, right? You know, we're not expecting you to check every box, because you make choices. If you spend a lot of time doing one thing, that means it's less time to spend doing something else. But I think for someone to be successful at Bucknell, they need to have a life outside the classroom. So extracurricular activities are big. We're also looking at the counselor recommendation letter, although that's probably more in academics. Teacher recommendations are important. The best teachers to ask for rec letters are teachers typically that taught you junior year, because what we're looking for in the rec letter it's not just kind of a regurgitation of your activities. What we're looking for are examples of your awesomeness. What we're trying to answer the question is, what is a student like in a classroom setting? That's what we're looking for in the teacher rec. So the teachers that can speak to that. And I know it's going to be, like I said, last year was weird. This year was weird. Just the whole, so many things are on Zoom. So many places haven't had in-person classes. We know it's a different year, and we read that way. But I think junior year is still better. A lot of students will ask a senior year teacher for a rec letter, and if they've just taught you for the first time senior year, a lot of those letters aren't particularly effective because you say, oh, they've only known the student, for 6 or 8 weeks, and they're not able to give us a lot of examples. There's not a lot of color there. So I would say junior year, advanced class. To my mind, this is one of the areas kind of disagree with the office. I'm not necessarily looking for, like, if you're an engineering major, I'm not saying you necessarily have to have a STEM rec letter. It's nice, but I always say, pick the teachers that, they're teaching challenging classes, but they can also speak to what you bring to a classroom setting. Right? I think that's more important than the specific example. But you don't want you want. I think again, is teacher recs. Those are the best people to write because they give us the most relevant information. We also were asked for a writing sample, a personal essay, which if you ask recent applicants, it's probably the hardest part of the application. Talking about yourself is often uncomfortable. Why do we have it if it's something no one likes to do? I think that's part of it. I think the essay serves two functions. First, again, it gives us a sense of, do you know basic English? Can you communicate to us in a way that we can understand? But also there is a sense of discomfort to it. There's a sense of unease to it. And I think part of being an adult is kind of pushing through those moments. And also realizing everyone is uncomfortable with it. Why do we read it? It's not out of some kind of sadism. We read the essay because we want to get to know you. We had over 11,000 applications this year. It was a record year for applications. So the essay was the most personal part of the application. You never know what you're going to get. You never know what you're going to learn. I read the essay to learn something about the student, something I'm not getting just with a list of activities, right? The best essays they're tightly focused. They're not buildings Romans about the entire student's life. The topic's focused, but it's personal. You're learning something about the student. I think students make a couple of tactical mistakes with essay. First, the topic. I think students spend too much time worrying about topic. And the important thing is it about you, right? I'm not really that interested in your grandfather or your love of LeBron James, unless it's something that's completely personal. If the whole essay is about how great LeBron James is, then that's not going to help us think about what you're going to bring. And I think the second thing is students often write them as creative writing papers, right? And it's not that at all. I think the best essays, they tell you what they're going to tell you. They tell you it, and then they told you what they just told you, right? They get in and they get out. They give you a sense of narrative. They're well edited. They're clean. It's not a first draft. There's polish to it. But the student's been careful in terms of how they use language. But I enjoy reading essays. You never know what you're going to get. You learn so many interesting things. And again, I think the essay humanizes the process because, it's the one thing that computers haven't been able to replicate yet. The third question, how competitive is a student for the major? Because like I said, we read by territory, but we evaluate by majors. So we actually include a supplement, which has a writing prompt, about 250 words, where you get a chance to talk about, why do I want to major in X? We're often asked, hey, if I don't get into my first choice major, can I pick a second major? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Although I'll be honest, we tend to admit more to students applying in their second major if they're applying in our ED rounds. Now we do offer 2 rounds of decisions, actually 3 really. We have 2 rounds of early decision. These are the delays. They'll probably be similar next year. Now, early decision is binding. These are the first applications we read. So is it a thumb on the scale? I'd say it's probably a hand on the scale. Yeah, we do admit a higher percentage of students in early decision than we do in regular decision. That's so true. With early decision, you'll have your answers within a month after our deadline. Now, with our regular decision, we typically have answers by the end of March. This year, because we're just awesome, in every conceivable way. We actually had our decisions ready by mid-March. It had been tough, but we were able to pull it off. Now, people are saying, well, this sounds like a great place. How do I pay for it? Well, you could write us a check for, I forget, was it $72,000? Or if you don't want to do that, you can fill out financial aid applications. Now, we use both the CSS profile and the FAFSA. They're both equally valid, although the CSS profile jumpstarts our process. Last year, the average financial aid package was over $30,000. So we spend most of our aid on need-based because we want to be as fair as we can. We want to help out as many families as possible. We also offer merit scholarships. We actually have a separate scholarship application. So you have a list of, I think it's eight scholarships on our website, and you can opt into which ones you want to apply for. So the students who apply for the merit scholarships, we'll consider those as well. We do have a specific scholarship for women in science and engineering. So that's a scholarship that I administer. So I always enjoy reading those applications as well. So again, our goal is to help out as many students as possible through the financial aid process. So don't cross this off your list just because of the sticker price. So if you were here, you'd actually be about to go on a tour. This is our campus. So looks like we've got about 4 minutes left. If anyone has any questions that haven't yet been answered, I could answer those at this time.
Sure. So Ben, I was frantically typing, so maybe you could just answer this generally. The question is twofold. Is switching majors common? How easy is it to change your major? And does Bucknell support double majors?
Well, like a lot of things in life and in college, the answer is it depends. Now, in the College of Engineering, you do see students switching majors. It tends to happen after the first semester, after students have taken Engineering 100. That's really when the bulk of the switching happens. And again, you always have about 35% of the incoming engineering class that's been admitted undecided engineering, so they have to go somewhere as well. So that's where most of the switching happens. Now, the College of Arts and Sciences, again, you don't have to declare until the end of the sophomore year, so you have time to figure out major, you have time to switch things. You can definitely be a double major. Like I said, we end up with about 25% of our students overall who have more than one major. But yeah, usually it's helpful if you have a sense coming in, but I've known plenty of students who decided to be double majors once they got here, once they discovered different passions for things. So it's much more difficult to do it in engineering. That's why we do the 5-year double degree program. You already need 34 credits to graduate. A typical load is 4 credits a semester. So you already have a couple of semesters where you have overloads. So to do a double major would be 42 credits, which is, unless you come in with maximum numbers of AP or dual enrollment classes, that's not something you'll be able to pull off in 4 years. So that's why we advertise it as a 5-year double degree program.
Ben, I think that's all the questions that came in. Oh, here's another one. Is it realistic to be an engineering major and play a sport? Do teams take walk-ons, for example, football?
Football takes walk-ons, absolutely. It's always up to the coach whether or not they do walk-ons. Sport like basketball, I think both men's and women's, they tend to recruit their walk-ons. But yeah, football is definitely taken walk-ons over the years. Yeah, many of our varsity athletes are engineering students. We always have, 15 to 25 each year who come in as engineers. I guess the sport we're most known for is men's basketball. The moment we're most known for was when we defeated Kansas in the NCAA tournament 15 years ago. It was one of the biggest upsets in the history of the tournament. When we beat Kansas, the guy that hit the game-winning shot was an electrical engineer. So I've known lots of students. I knew someone from my hometown. I'm from Huntsville, Alabama originally, who came here he played for our basketball team and did biomedical engineering. So I'll be honest, I don't know if you could do much beyond play a varsity sport in engineering, but you can do both. You may have a couple of less hours of sleep, but it's definitely possible to do both.
Okay. Okay, one last question, it seems like.
All right.
Are the engineering or business clubs application based, or are they open for all students? Okay. I'm trying to quite or the
I think
engineering.
it depends
or
on the
business.
club. I think most, unless they're specific to a major, I think, most things at Bucknell are going to be open to all students. So, well, it looks like we've come to the end of our time. I'd just like to thank everyone for logging in tonight. Thank you for your questions.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Bucknell University. As you close out, you're going to have a quick 4-question survey, so we hope that you'll provide us with some feedback. The recording of this session will be available within 1 week at strivescan.com/CACHET. Have a good one, everyone. Bye-bye.